The tray slammed down like a guillotine, splattering across Gabriel's chest before he could even flinch. "Faggots got a taste for this shit now," Jake bellowed, his voice slicing through the cafeteria din like a chainsaw through butter, as the lukewarm sludge of mashed potatoes, gravy, and what smelled like week-old chili con carne oozed down Gabriel's shirt, soaking into his skin with a sickening warmth. In that instant, the world narrowed to the roar of laughter echoing off the linoleum floors of Lincoln High in rural Ohio, where being 17 and queer was the original sin. And Gabriel Morales, 5'8", wiry, with eyes like polished obsidian, learned that survival meant swallowing more than just the filth. Gabriel wiped the sludge from his eyes with the back of his hand, the chunky bits clinging like accusations. The cafeteria at Lincoln High smelled like a battlefield of adolescence. Overboiled peas, industrial fries slick with grease, and the faint metallic tang of regret. It was 2005, and in Milford, Ohio, a speck on the map between cornfields and crumbling factories, high school was a pressure cooker where secrets fermented into scandals overnight. Gabriel had known Jake Harlan since kindergarten, back when they traded Pokemon cards under the slide and dreamed of escaping to the bright lights of Cleveland. But puberty hit Jake like a freight train, turning his lanky frame into a linebacker's bulk and his easy grins into snarls. By junior year, Jake was the king of the gridiron, captain of the football team, with a buzz cut that screamed All-American and a homophobia sharper than his coach's whistle. Started small. Whispers in the locker room after gym class, when Gabriel lingered too long stealing glances at the curve of a teammate's back. "Morales is checking out your ass, bro," someone would mutter, and Jake would laugh the loudest, his blue eyes hardening into chips of ice. Gabriel wasn't out, not officially. But in a town where the rainbow flag was as welcome as a Confederate statue at a pride parade, you didn't need a sign. Your walk, your voice, the way you hummed show tunes under your breath while sketching in your notebook, they betrayed you. Gabriel's mom, Rosa, had immigrated from Mexico in the 80s, chasing the American dream with nothing but a green card and a recipe for tamales that could make angels weep. She worked double shifts at the diner, her hands calloused from flipping burgers, always telling Gabriel, "Mijo, this country eats its own, but you hold your head high. We're survivors." That day in the cafeteria, survival felt like drowning. Jake had cornered him by the vending machines, tray in hand, flanked by his posse. Tommy with the acne scars, Brad the wannabe rapper, and a few interchangeable meatheads in Letterman jackets. Gabriel had been minding his business, picking at a soggy PB&J, replaying the dream he'd had last night, kissing a boy with sun-kissed hair under the Ferris wheel at the county fair. Then Jake loomed, all 6'2" of him, reeking of Axe body spray and entitlement. "Heard you been eye-fucking the swim team, queer," he spat, loud enough for the entire row of tables to turn. Gabriel's heart jackhammered. "What? No, man, that's..." But Jake didn't wait. He upended the tray, the filthiest thing in the lunch line, a mystery slop the kids called vomit surprise, cascading over Gabriel like a baptism in hell. The laughter was a tidal wave, crashing over him as he stood there, dripping, the cold air hitting the wet fabric like needles. Someone snapped a photo on a flip phone, primitive paparazzi, and by fifth period, it was circulating like contraband. Gabriel bolted to the bathroom, retching into the sink, the taste of bile mixing with the phantom gravy on his tongue. He stripped off his shirt, the stains blooming like bruises, and stared at his reflection. Brown skin flushed with shame, dark curls matted, eyes wide with a fury he didn't know he possessed. Why me? He whispered to the mirror, but the porcelain offered no mercy. Word got back to Rosa that evening. She found him in the tiny kitchen of their double-wide trailer, scrubbing his skin raw under the faucet. Gabrielito, what happened? Her voice was steel wrapped in velvet, the kind that had faced down INS agents and leering bosses. He broke then, the story tumbling out in sobs. Jake, the tray, the word faggot etched into his brain like graffiti. Rosa pulled him into her arms, her apron smelling of cumin and home. That boy, he's scared. Mijo. Scared of what he don't understand. But you're light. Don't let them dim you. She made him hot chocolate spiked with cinnamon, told him stories of her abuelita back in Guadalajara who loved fiercely, no matter who. That night, Gabriel lay awake, the ceiling fan whirring like accusations, vowing he'd get out. College, a city, a life where love wasn't a slur. The fallout lingered like a bad hangover. At school, the halls parted for him like the Red Sea in reverse, kids averting eyes, teachers murmuring about sensitivity training that never came. Jake didn't apologize. He doubled down, bumping shoulders in the halls, muttering tranny under his breath once when Gabriel wore a fitted tee. But there was one bright spot. Mr. Ellis, the drama teacher, a wiry man in his 40s with a mustache like a broom and a closet he cracked open just enough for Gabriel to peek in. After class one day, as Gabriel rehearsed lines for the school musical, Grease, ironically Mr. Ellis handed him a dog-eared copy of The Perks of Being a Wallflower. "This one's about boys like us," he said quietly, his eyes kind. "It gets better, kid. Promise." Gabriel devoured the book, Charlie's letters a lifeline in the storm. He started writing his own journal entries scrawled in the margins of his history notes, dreams of New York or LA where gay bars glowed like neon promises. He threw himself into theater, nailing Sandy in the musical, his voice belting, "You're the one that I want," with a vulnerability that hushed the auditorium. Jake was in the audience, dragged by his cheerleader girlfriend, and for a split second during curtain call, their eyes met. Gabriel saw it then, a flicker, not of regret, but of something raw, unspoken. Envy? Fear? It vanished as quick as it came. Senior year brought a fragile peace. Gabriel dated on the sly. A fumbling kiss with a theater kid from the next town over, stolen in the back of a pickup under starless skies. Graduation was a blur of mortarboards and pomp and circumstance. Rosa beaming from the bleachers, her pride a shield. Jake went to Ohio State on a football scholarship, the town's golden boy. Gabriel scraped together community college tuition, working weekends at Rosa's diner, flipping eggs and dreaming of culinary school. One day, "Ma, I'll have my own place," he'd say, plating her tamales with flair. She'd ruffle his hair. "I know, chef. The world needs your flavor." But Milford clung like damp rot. Post-grad, the economy tanked. Factories shuttered. Jobs dried up. Gabriel bounced between waitressing gigs, the weight of failure pressing like an invisible boot. One night, scrolling Craigslist on a borrowed laptop, he found it. A scholarship for LGBTQ youth in the arts. Full ride to the Institute of Culinary Education in New York City. He applied on a whim. His essay a raw gut punch about the cafeteria, the slop, the boy it made him become. Acceptance came like manna, a plane ticket, a dorm bed, a chance to reinvent. New York hit like a fever dream. The city pulsed with possibility. steam rising from manhole covers, drag queens hawking falafel on street corners, rainbow flags whipping in the wind. Gabriel traded his flannel for slim jeans and a leather jacket, his accent softening into something cosmopolitan. Classes were a revelation: knife skills, flavor profiles, the alchemy of acid and fat. He interned at a trendy bistro in Chelsea, where the chef, a burly bear of a man named Marco, took one look at Gabriel's knife work and growled, "Kid, you got fire. Don't let anyone tell you different." Marco became a mentor, then a lover, a whirlwind of late-night pasta and whispered confessions in a walk-up overlooking the Hudson. It was Gabriel's first real taste of love, messy and real, ending amicably when Marco moved to Paris. But it taught him, queer love wasn't a punchline, it was poetry. By 2015, a decade out of Milford, Gabriel had clawed his way up. He opened Morales Table, a cozy diner in Brooklyn's Williamsburg, exposed brick, mismatched chairs, a menu blending his mom's Mexican roots with American comfort, tamale mac and cheese, green chili burgers, tres leches French toast. Reviews poured in, soul food for the soul, one critic wrote, and the place buzzed with hipsters, families, the occasional celebrity slumming it for authenticity. Gabriel, now 27, with a sleeve of tattoos tracing his journey, a rainbow chili pepper on his forearm, ran the front of house with a smile that hid the scars. He'd gone back to Ohio once, for Rose's 60th, but Milford felt like a faded Polaroid. Jake Harlan? A ghost. Or so he thought. The bell above the door jingled like a hesitant heartbeat on a drizzly October evening in 2015. Gabriel was behind the counter, wiping down the espresso machine, the scent of fresh tortillas mingling with the earth's petrichor seeping through the cracked window. Morales Table was winding down. Last call for pie. A couple in the corner nursing IPAs. The jukebox crooning Patsy Cline. He glanced up, habit more than expectation, and froze. The kid at the door was soaked to the bone, hoodie sagging like a defeated sail, hands shoved deep in pockets that probably held nothing but lint. 17, maybe 18, with a face that punched Gabriel square in the gut. Sharp jaw, tousled black hair, eyes the color of storm clouds, Jake Harlan's eyes, but softer, haunted. "Can I help you?" Gabriel's voice came out steadier than he felt, but his pulse betrayed him, thumping like a bass line in a dive bar. The boy Diego, as Gabriel would learn, shifted, water pooling at his sneakers. "Just looking for food. Cheap stuff." "I'm good for it." His accent was pure Midwest, laced with the same drawl Jake had wielded like a weapon. Gabriel nodded, waving him to a booth by the window, the vinyl creaking under Diego's slight frame. Close. The resemblance was eerie. Same high cheekbones, same faint scar above the lip from a childhood bike crash Gabriel remembered from elementary school pics. But where Jake had been built like a brick wall, Diego was all angles and shadows, a cultish grace suggesting he'd grown up dodging blows, literal or otherwise. Gabriel poured coffee, black, no frills, and slid it over with a menu. "On the house tonight." "Rough out there." Diego's fingers trembled as he wrapped them around the mug, steam curling like secrets. "You could say that." He didn't elaborate, but the purple bloom under his left eye spoke volumes. A shiner, fresh, the kind that came from a father's temper or a town's intolerance. Gabriel busied himself in the kitchen, plating a special. Rose's tamales with a side of elote, corn grilled to charred perfection, slathered in crema and cotija. Comfort food, The kind that hugged your insides when the world kicked you out. As Diego ate, ravenous at first, then savoring each bite like it was contraband, Gabriel lingered, polishing salt shakers that didn't need it. Stories spilled out in fits and starts, like rain pattering on the roof. Diego was Jake's son. All right, born to that cheerleader from high school, Brittany, who'd traded pom-poms for PTA meetings. Milford hadn't changed. Same factory ghosts, same church steeples preaching fire and brimstone. But Diego, he was the glitch in the Harlan Code. Dad always said I was too soft, Diego muttered, fork scraping the plate. Like you, he said. Remembered some story from his glory days, dumping slop on a fag in the cafeteria. Laughed about it like it was the punchline of the century. Gabriel's stomach twisted, the old sludge rising phantom-like in his throat. Jake had mythologized it, turned torture into tavern lore. Diego had come out last spring, a quiet confession over dinner that exploded like a grenade. Brittany tried, hugs and we love you anyway. But Jake? He erupted, the football hero's mask cracking to reveal the scared boy beneath. You're not my son, he'd roared, fist connecting with the wall inches from Diego's head. Bruises followed, words sharper than knuckles. Fix yourself or get out. School was no refuge. Whispers echoed the past. Lockers slammed with queer scrawled in Sharpie. Diego packed a duffel last week. Clothes, a battered guitar, $200 scraped from mowing lawns, and hitched east, chasing rumors of a city where boys like him could breathe. Gabriel listened, the diner's hum fading to a hush. Empathy warred with anger, a cocktail he'd learned to mix in therapy sessions back in culinary school. Your dad's an asshole, he said finally, voice low. But you're not him. And that story, it wasn't funny. It broke me for a long time. Diego's eyes lifted, searching, and in that gaze Gabriel saw a mirror. Not Jake's, but his own at 17, raw and reaching. He comped the meal, tossed in a to-go bag of leftovers. Crash on my couch tonight. No strings. Tomorrow, we figure it out. Diego hesitated, pride flickering, then nodded. Thanks, man. You're kinda saving my life here. The couch in Gabriel's one-bedroom above the diner was lumpy, but Diego conked out like a soldier after battle, guitar propped against the wall. Gabriel lay awake in his bed, staring at the ceiling cracks that mapped constellations. Jake's son. Of all the gin joints, revenge fantasies flickered, spilling the beans to the local paper, watching Harlan's empire crumble, but they soured quick. This kid wasn't collateral, he was a casualty, same as Gabriel had been. By dawn, resolve hardened. He'd help Diego stand, not stomp him down. Mornings at Morales' table were sacred. Gabriel chopping onions for salsa, radio blasting Selena, the sizzle of chorizo a symphony. Diego wandered down at 8, hair tousled, wearing one of Gabriel's old band tees that hung loose on his frame. Smells like heaven, he said, perching on a stool. Gabriel slid over migas, scrambled eggs with tortilla strips, peppers popping with heat. They talked easy, barriers crumbling like day-old bread. Diego wanted to be a musician, finger-picking blues on that guitar his dad called a waist for a real man. Gabriel shared his own scars, the move to NYC, the nights crying into his pillow, the first time a man held him without flinching. It gets better, he echoed Mr. Ellis's words. But it takes grit. Word spread subtle like. Regulars noticed the new face-bussing tables, his shy smile earning tips and tipsy advice. Kids got potential, old Mrs. Kowalski would say, slipping Diego a 20. Gabriel enrolled him in GD classes at the community center, hooked him up with a barista gig next door. Nights, they'd walk the bridge over the East River, city lights winking like co-conspirators. Diego opened up more. Jake's rages, the pressure to be normal, the secret crushes on boys who'd never look twice. Gabriel shared too, Marco's laugh, the sting of breakups, the quiet joy of owning a piece of Brooklyn. One evening, under a sky bruised purple, Diego's hand brushed Gabriel's. Neither pulled away. It was tentative, electric, a spark in the dark. Fall deepened, leaves carpeting the sidewalks in gold and crimson. Morales' table thrived, Thanksgiving specials drawing lines around the block. Gabriel's mom visited, her hug enveloping Diego like a sun. Mijo, you look like trouble, she teased, but her eyes said family. Romance bloomed slow, like a slow roast pork shoulder, stolen kisses in the walk-in cooler, Diego's fingers tracing Gabriel's tattoos, whispers of I see you in the hush after closing. It was healing, this love. Gabriel teaching Diego knife skills, Diego strumming melodies that made the diner feel like a stage. But shadows loomed. A collect call from Milford one night, Brittany, voice cracking, Jake's on a rampage. Says Diego's gone queer like that Morales kid. Please, keep him safe. Gabriel hung up, jaw tight. The past wasn't buried. It was compost, fertilizing what grew next. He pulled Diego close that night, their bodies fitting like puzzle pieces worn smooth by time. Whatever comes, Gabriel murmured, we face it together. Diego nodded, breath warm against his neck. Yeah. Together. But Jake Harlan wasn't one to fade quietly. Winter bit hard, snow blanketing Brooklyn in hush. One January afternoon, as Gabriel prepped for the dinner rush, dicing cilantro, the knife a rhythmic thwack, the door flew open with a vengeance. There stood Jake, broader than memory, face weathered by beers and regrets, eyes bloodshot. Where's my boy? He demanded, voice booming like thunder in the cozy space. Diners froze, forks midair. Gabriel set down the knife, heart a war drum. The bully had come calling, and the prodigal son was upstairs, oblivious. The air in Morales' table thickened like gravy left too long on the stove, every patron's gaze swiveling to the spectacle unfolding by the door. Jake Harlan filled the frame, his parka dusted with Jersey Turnpike slush, breath fogging in the chill that followed him in. 37, he was a caricature of his high school self, gut straining the flannel shirt, hair thinning under a trucker hat emblazoned with an OSU Buckeyes logo, the lines around his mouth etched deep from factory shifts and Friday night disappointments. But those eyes, pale blue, predatory, hadn't changed. They locked on Gabriel like a heat-seeking missile, dredging up the cafeteria stench in an instant. Harlan, Gabriel said, voice level as a horizon line, though his knuckles whitened on the counter's edge. We're closed for setup. Come back at 5. It was a lie, bold as brass, buying time. Upstairs, Diego was napping off a late shift, guitar strings still humming in Gabriel's mind from last night's impromptu serenade. Jake snorted, stepping forward, boots tracking meltwater across the checkered floor. Don't play games. Spick. I know he's here. Brittany spilled, said you've been harboring my runaway like some fag Pied Piper. The slur landed like a slap, casual as swatting a fly, but it stung fresh, reopening the wound Gabriel thought scarred over. The diners, a mix of artists sketching brunch ideas, a lesbian couple with their toddler, the mailman nursing coffee, shifted uneasily. Gabriel felt their eyes, a silent jury. This was Brooklyn, not Milford. Words like that didn't fly without fallout. "Watch your mouth," he replied, low and lethal. "This is my place. You want to talk about Diego? We do it civil." Outside, Jake's laugh was a bark, echoing off the tin ceiling. "Civil? That's rich coming from you. Always were a dramatic little shit. Remember Lunch Line '05? You wore that crap like a badge, crying to your wetback mom." He leaned in, voice dropping to a venomous hiss. "Now you're playing house with my blood? Over my dead body." Gabriel's vision tunneled, the room tilting like a bad drunk. Flashback hit hard. The splatter, the jeers, Jake's triumphant grin as Gabriel fled. But he wasn't that kid anymore. Years of slicing through mirepoix, through heartbreak, through the city's grind had honed him sharp. "Your son's a man now," he shot back, words measured, cutting. "And he's choosing his path. One that doesn't include your fists or your fairy tales." Jake's face purpled, veins bulging like rivers on a map. He lunged across the counter, fist cocked, but Gabriel was faster, grabbing a rolling pin from the pastry station, brandishing it like Excalibur. "Touch me, and I'll call the cops. Assault in a queer-owned joint? You'd be viral before supper." The standoff stretched taut, a wire ready to snap. The lesbian couple stood, phones out, recording. "Back off, bigot," one called, her voice steady as rebar. Jake faltered, the weight of witnesses pressing. He straightened, chest heaving. "This ain't over, Morales. Diego's coming home. Where he belongs, with family." He spat the word like it was holy writ, then stormed out, the bell-jangling discord. The diner exhaled collective, applause rippling tentative. Gabriel sagged against the counter, adrenaline crashing like waves on Coney Island. "Everyone, pies on me," he announced, forcing a grin. But inside, storm clouds gathered. He bolted upstairs, finding Diego curled on the couch, oblivious, a sketchpad open to half-drawn lyrics. "Mierda," Gabriel breathed, shaking him gentle. Diego stirred, eyes fluttering open, innocent, trusting. "What's up?" Gabriel hesitated, the truth a bitter pill. But lies were Jake's currency. He wouldn't trade in them. "Your dad's here. Tracked you down." Diego sat bolt upright, color draining like milk from a spill. "What? How?" Panic etched his features, the shiner a grim prophecy. Gabriel knelt, hands on knees, grounding them both. "He didn't get near you. I handled it. But he's not done." The talk that followed was a dissection, raw and relentless. Diego paced the cramped living room, guitar clutched like a shield. "I knew he'd come. Mom warned me. Said he's been drinking heavy since I left. Telling the boys at the VFW I'm in the wind with some spick queer." He winced, aping Jake's slur. "Sorry. This is words. Not." Gabriel waved it off. "I've heard worse." From him. He shared the confrontation, editing the venom for mercy, but Diego saw through. "You stood up to him." "For me." His voice cracked, mingling with fear. Gabriel pulled him close, the hug fierce. "For us. You're worth it, Diego. Every damn bit." They fortified, changed the locks, added Diego to the business license, looped in a lawyer friend from the LGBTQ center. Romance deepened in the siege. Nights tangled in sheets. Gabriel tracing the freckles across Diego's shoulders like a constellation map. Diego's lips mapping Gabriel's scars with kisses soft as forgiveness. "I love you," Diego whispered one dawn, sunlight slanting through blinds like gold bars. Gabriel's heart stuttered, love, after Marco's fade, after casual flings that fizzled. "I love you too, kid." Scary as hell. They laughed. The sound a bomb. But Jake's shadow loomed, a specter at the feast. Spring unfurled. Cherry blossoms dusting the streets like confetti. Morales Table hosted its first Pride pop-up, rainbow tamales, drag bingo with mimosas, drawing crowds that spilled onto the sidewalk. Diego emceed, his guitar strumming anthems that had patrons tearing up. Gabriel watched from the kitchen pass, pride swelling like yeast dough. This was America, the messy, beautiful underbelly. Immigrants feeding dreamers, queers claiming space. But paradise has serpents. One April night, as they closed up, Gabriel's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown Ohio number. "Tell my boy he's dead to me if he doesn't come home. And you, watch your back, fag." Attached. A photo, the old cafeteria pic. Gabriel drenched. Timestamped 2005. Jake's doing a digital Molotov. Rage boiled, but Gabriel channeled it, called the cops, filed a report, blocked the number. "He's scared," Diego said later, curled against him. "Of losing me. Of what I represent." Gabriel stroked his hair, the gesture paternal, fraternal, carnal all at once. "Scared don't excuse poison. You deserve better." They made love slow that night, bodies a dialogue of defiance, reaffirming what Jake couldn't touch. Climax brewed inevitable. Memorial Day weekend. Milford's annual fair in full swing, carnival lights, funnel cakes, the echo of Gabriel's lost dreams. Brittany called, hysterical. "Jake's driving up. Says he's taking Diego by force if he has to. Please, stop him." Gabriel's blood iced. He and Diego boarded a train west, not fleeing but facing, armed with love, law, lineage. The ride was tense, hands clasped across the armrest, landscapes blurring from urban grit to rural sprawl. "What if he hurts you?" Diego fretted. Gabriel squeezed. "Then we hurt back." With truth. They arrived at the fairgrounds under a sky heavy with thunder, the air thick with cotton candy and diesel. Jake was there, monolithic by the Ferris wheel, Brittany wringing her hands beside him. Spotting them, he charged, face a thunderhead. "You brainwashed him," he bellowed, drawing stares from fried dough lines. Diego stepped forward, voice steady. "No, Dad. I chose this. Chose me." The crowd murmured, a Greek chorus. Jake faltered, eyes darting to Gabriel, to the gathering phones. "You're throwing away everything. For what?" A Spix bed, the slur ignited. Gabriel surged, fists clenched. "Everything? Like the slop you dumped on me? The years you stole?" Voices rose, a cacophony, Brittany pleading, fairgoers intervening. Jake swung wild, clipping Gabriel's jaw, pain blooming hot. Diego shoved between. "Stop! This is why I left." The crack of connection, fist to flesh, halted time. Jake reeled, horror dawning as blood trickled from Gabriel's lip. Silence fell, broken only by a child's wail. Then, "Cops!" called by a vendor, swarmed, cuffing Jake for assault. "You monster," Brittany sobbed, turning to Diego. "I'm sorry. For all of it." As Jake was led away, eyes meeting Gabriel's, not with hate, but hollow defeat, he muttered, "Didn't mean." For this, Gabriel spat blood, tasting copper and closure. Too late for means. The ambulance ride was a blur. Stitches for the cut. Ice for the swelling. Diego held his hand, tears salting the wound. "You okay?" Gabriel nodded, the pain a punctuation. "Better than ever." Summer scorched the Midwest like a skillet left on high, humidity clinging like unspoken apologies. Back in Brooklyn, the stitches came out under fluorescent hum, leaving a faint scar, a crescent moon on Gabriel's jaw, a badge of battles won. Morales' table reopened to fanfare, Survivor Stories night, where locals shared scars over specials. Diego headlined, his set a tapestry of pain and phoenix, songs about slop and salvation, drawing cheers that rattled the windows. Gabriel manned the bar, pouring generously, his smile genuine now, unshadowed. Jake's arrest made local news, ex-football star in queer brawl, a footnote in Milford's gossip mill. But for them, it was liberation. Brittany visited a week later, tentative as a fawn, bearing tamales she'd attempted, lumpy, but earnest. "He's in counseling," she said over coffee, eyes red-rimmed. "Anger management, the works. Says he's sorry. For everything." Gabriel stirred sugar, the spoon clinking like judgment. "Sorry don't glue the broken." But Diego, softer-hearted, listened, video calling Jake under supervised sighs. The conversations were stilted at first, grunts and glares, but cracks appeared. Jake admitting his own buried secrets, a college fling with a teammate that ended in panic and prayer. "I hated you 'cause I hated me," he confessed once, voice gravel. "Seeing you free. It gutted me." Forgiveness wasn't instant, but it fermented, slow and necessary. Love, meanwhile, flourished unchecked. Gabriel and Diego were a fixture, holding hands at Bushwick block parties, Diego's head on Gabriel's shoulder during indie flicks at the Alamo Drafthouse. They traveled, a road trip upstate, skinny dipping in chilly lakes, Gabriel teaching Diego to fish with lines from his abuelita's tales. "Catch and release. Mijo," he'd say, reeling in a bass. "Like grudges." Diego laughed, the sound free, and that night by the campfire, under a quilt of stars, he proposed not with rings, but with a lyric, "Marry me, Gabe. Make this forever." Gabriel's yes was a vow, sealed with esmores and slow dances to crickets. But harmony has undercurrents. August brought a letter from Jake, handwritten, postmarked Milford, arriving like an unexploded ordnance. Gabriel slid it open alone, Diego at a gig. "Gabriel, I ain't good with words. Never was. That day in the cafeteria. I was drowning in my own shit, scared of what I felt for Tommy after practice. You were easy target 'cause you owned it. Proud like. Made me sick with envy. Dumping that crap? Lowest I ever went. Seeing Diego with you happy, whole, it hit me. I robbed you of that. Robbed myself. I'm trying, man. AA meetings. Reading that book you recommended. Perks? Yeah. If you can find grace. I'd like to know my boy without the poison. No pressure. Harlan." Gabriel folded it, throat tight. Grace. The word tasted like ash and honey. He shared it with Diego that night, Post-show glow fading to gravity. What do you think? Diego read. Silent. Then, he's broken. Like we all are. But maybe mending. They talked till dawn, boundaries, therapy joint sessions. No rushing. Jake earned visits. Supervised brunches at neutral ground, a park in Jersey where hot dogs bridged gaps. Awkward silences punctuated small talk. OSU scores. Weather. But progress crept. Jake complimenting Diego's chords, asking Gabriel about the diner with genuine curiosity. Sounds like you built an empire from scraps, he said once, almost wistful. Gabriel nodded. Scraps make the best stock. Fall painted the city in fire, leaves swirling like confetti at a parade no one planned. Morales' table hosted weddings now, queer elopements in the back garden, garlands of marigolds nodding approval. Gabriel and Diego tied the knot there, a backyard affair under October moon. Rosa officiating in her Sunday best, vowing in Spanglish, Brittany toasting with tears, even Jake in the back row, subdued in khakis, clapping polite when Diego kissed Gabriel fierce. No speeches from him, not yet, but his presence was a concession, a step from the abyss. Winter whispered change. Diego's music caught fire. A viral clip from Pride Night landing a manager. Gigs at open mics turning to club residencies. Gabriel expanded the menu, adding Harlan's Redemption hash, spicy corned beef with a nod to Ohio roots, proceeds to anti-bullying orgs. Jake visited more, solo now, helping bus tables on slow days. Feels good. Honest work, he'd grunt, stacking plates with care. One night, closing time, just the two of them wiping counters. Jake paused. That photo I sent. Deleted it. All of them. Past's past. Gabriel met his eyes, seeing the boy beneath the man. Scared. Seeking. Yeah. It is. But betrayal lurks in blind spots. Spring 2017. As cherry blossoms bloomed defiant, the blow landed. Diego came home late from a recording session, face ashen, phone clutched like a grenade. Gabe. Jake called the label. Told them I'm unstable, that my fag dad, you is poison. Said I'd crash and burn like him. Gabriel's world tilted, the letters grace curdling to gall. Jake. Slipping, or testing. Diego wept. Rage and grief a toxic brew. I thought he changed. Gabriel held him, plotting murder in metaphors, chopping onions till they cried for him. Confrontation brewed inevitable. They drove to Milford, unannounced. The old trailer park a time capsule of rusted swings and faded dreams. Jake answered the door in a wife-beater. Beer in hand, eyes widening at the duo on his stoop. Boys? What? Gabriel thrust the phone forward. Voicemails queued. Explain. Jake deflated, sinking to the steps, head in hands. I panicked. Label guy called, asking about family. I saw red, thought they'd hurt you. Diego. Like I hurt him. He nodded at Gabriel. Shame pooling. Old habits. Sabotage what I can't control. Brittany hovered in the doorway, nodding sad. He's trying. Slipped bad. Diego's voice shattered the dusk. Trying ain't enough. Dad. You almost tanked my dream. Gabe's dream. Tears carved tracks. Jake looked up. Wrecked. I know. God. I know. Let me fix it. He called the label that night, apology on speaker. Groveling raw. My boy's gold. Don't listen to this old fool. The exec laughed it off. Family drama? We've heard worse. And greenlit the EP. But trust fractured. A china plate spiderwebbed. Healing was Herculean. Joint therapy in NYC circle of chairs. Jake flying in monthly. Dissecting the cafeteria like archaeologists. I was the bully 'cause I was bullied by my head, Jake admitted once, voice cracking. Gabriel shared too the sludge's weight, the years of therapy to scrub it off. Diego mediated, his love the glue. Months blurred. Jake sober 6 months. Volunteering at a youth center. Diego's album dropping to indie buzz. Gabriel's diner franchising tentative. A sister spot in Queens. Climax crested that summer. A Harlan Morales barbecue in the diner's garden. Test of truces. Smoke rose from the grill. Ribs slow simmered in adobo. Laughter tentative. Jake flipped burgers. Sweat beading. When thunder cracked. Literal storm. Rain sheeting sudden. They huddled under the awning. Plates steaming. And Jake raised a glass. To family. Messy. Fucked up. But ours. Eyes met. Gabriel's wary. Diego's hopeful. To second chances. Gabriel toasted. Clink echoing. It wasn't absolution. But a chord. A fragile piece in the downpour. Autumn 2018 gilded the edges of their world. Leaves turning like pages in a well-worn novel. Morales' table had become a beacon, lines snaking for Sunday brunch. The air forever laced with chilies and second chances. Gabriel, 30, wore his years like a well-fitted apron. Laugh lines crinkling his eyes, the jaw scar a subtle map to his metal. Diego's EP, Slop and Stars, charted modest, a folk rock ode to outcasts. Track 3, Cafeteria Grace, a duet with a guest fiddler that tugged heartstrings nationwide. Jake, he was a work in progress. AA chips stacking like poker bets. Weekends in Brooklyn crashing on the couch. Learning to dad without the domineering. Love between Gabriel and Diego had ripened. No longer tentative fruit but sturdy tree, roots entwined in shared rituals. Morning runs along the promenade. Evenings composing menus to melodies. Lazy Sundays with Rose's empanadas and vinyl spins of Joni Mitchell. They talked kids one night, post-dinner haze, feet tangled on the fire escape. Adopt, Diego mused, fingers tracing Gabriel's palm. Give some lost boy what we fought for. Gabriel's throat tightened. Visions of tiny hands in theirs, teaching tamale folds and chord progressions. Yeah. When we're ready. Build the nest first. But nests need foundations, and cracks spidered subtle. Jake's visits grew fervent, too fervent, probing questions about the diner's books, helpful suggestions that reeked of control. You run this loose, Gabe. Back home, we'd streamline. Gabriel brushed it off, chalking to Rust Belt habits, but unease fermented. Betrayal's second act struck Halloween Eve. Costumes hung forgotten in the closet. Diego burst in, face thunderstruck, waving a stack of papers. Lease docs. For the Queen's spot. Signed over to. Dad, he forged your sig. Gabe. Says it's family investment, but it's control. He tanked the bank loan to force it. Gabriel's blood roared, the room spinning like a bad carnival ride. Forgery, felony territory, trust eviscerated. That son of a... He snatched the phone, dialing Jake, voice arctic. What the hell? Harlan, after everything. Jake's denial crumbled quick. Excuses tumbling. I saw the numbers. You were drowning. Thought I'd save you. Like you saved Diego. Save? It was strangling. the old bully's grip disguised as grace. Gabriel hung up, fury a live wire. He's poison. Still. Can't shake it. Diego paced. Torn, love for the man warring with loyalty to his. Therapy said progress, not perfection. But this, they confronted at dawn, driving to Jake's motel on the Turnpike Fringe. A seedy joint with neon flickering vacancy, like a warning. Jake opened bleary-eyed. Flannel rumpled. Boys, listen. But Gabriel thrust the docs forward. Explain. Jake deflated, sinking to the bed. Confession spilling. Isolation post-arrest. Resentment bubbling at their bloom while his wilted. You got the life I dreamed, love. Success. Forged it to belong. Stupid. Yeah. Desperate. Desperation's no defense. But humanity whispers mercy. Diego's voice broke the ice. You almost lost us again. That. For what? Control? Jake wept then. Ugly, snotty sobs of a man unmasked. I don't know how to be good. Gabriel, against every instinct, sat beside him. You learn. Like I did. Like we all do. They called lawyers. Voided the lease. Jake entered rehab deeper. 6 months inpatient. Letters weekly, raw. Repentant. I'm the filth now, one read. Washing it off. One day, winter wrapped them gentle. Holidays a mosaic. Roses posada with luminarias glowing. Jake Skyping from treatment. Face gaunt but clear-eyed. New Year's. Gabriel and Diego renewed vows casual. Pier jardiniera rings. Champagne in plastic flutes. To us, Diego toasted. Unbreakable. Spring birthed green shoots. The Queen's spot opened legit. Co-owned with Brittany's bakery tie-in. Diego toured small coffeehouse circuits. Fans singing back his scars. Gabriel guest-chefed. Their worlds orbiting tight. Climax whispered. Not thundered. A family summit post-rehab. Jake discharged. Sober 200 days. They met at the diner. Neutral ground turned hearth. Tension hummed like a taut string. But Jake arrived humble. Pie from a shop. No fanfare. I owe you, he said to Gabriel. Eyes down. That day, I stole your dignity. Let me give back. He slid a check modest from savings for the anti-bullying fund. And this, a box. Old yearbook. The cafeteria pic crossed out in red marker. Replaced by a new print, Jake and Diego at a game. Arms slung casual. Gabriel took it, throat bobbing. Why now? Jake shrugged. Vulnerable. 'Cause your family. Messy as hell. But mine. Diego hugged him fierce. The embrace a dam breaking. Gabriel joined. The three a knot. Past. Present. Possible. No fairy tale polish. Wound scar. Not vanish. But in that huddle, under the diner's warm lights, Grace flowered. Years unspooled like film reels. 2025 found them rooted. Gabriel and Diego, married 8 years. Parents to Mateo, a rambunctious 5-year-old adopted from the system, with Diego's eyes and Gabriel's fire, flipping tiny spatulas in the kitchen. Morales Table franchised thrice over, a chain of queer havens from Brooklyn to Boston. Jake, redeemed, ragged edges sanded. Manager at the original, flipping burgers with a wink, mentoring runaways with stories scrubbed gentle. Once dumped slop on a hero, he'd quip to wide-eyed kids. Now I serve hope. One crisp November morn, current date, 16th, 2025. Gabriel stood at the counter, Mateo on hip, watching Jake teach the boy knife skills on soft carrots. Diego strummed in the corner, new album brewing. The bell jingled, regular streaming in The World Hungry. Gabriel caught Jake's eye, a nod passing silent. From filth to feast, bully to brother. No endings tidy, but this love's stubborn alchemy was human as heartbeat. In America's vast, bruised tapestry, they'd woven gold from grime. And it tasted, finally, like home.